In this tutorial, we will have a look how we can create this about menu UI and how we can go over to, or you can simply say switch over to our UI. And before I jump into the coding part, I want to thanks Bang and braneburne for donating me on Patreon. And if you guys want to do that, then you can do so on Patreon, and by that you will unlock many benefits. And also make sure you check out my Udemy courses on Unity 6 and C# coding. So now let's dive into this topic. Duplicate this menu in order to create our about menu. But if we do it in hierarchy, it's not gonna do at all. Basically, if we move over to hierarchy, then canvas, and then select this main menu UI, and then press down Control D to duplicate and change something main menu UI, it's gonna save into this main menu UI one, basically to the duplicate one as well. And we don't want that, so that's why what we're gonna do, instead of duplicating main menu UI in the hierarchy, we're gonna duplicate from that prefab folder, and you're gonna get it later why we need to do that. So I'm gonna select my main menu UI, basically the duplicate one. Let's delete it from the hierarchy, and let's move over to project tab, assets, and then we're gonna move over to our prefabs folder, and over here we're gonna select our main menu, and over here we just want to duplicate that. So to duplicate that, we're gonna press down Ctrl D to duplicate that, and we're gonna call this one, the duplicate one, something like about menu. So let's right click on it, let's click on this rename in the top, and let's call it something like about menu. So let's call it about menu, and we can simply double click on this in order to open that up. And to go back in scene view in the hierarchy, you can see back arrow, so just click there in order to go back. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to select my main menu UI underneath my canvas in the hierarchy, then go over to inspector, and we're going to uncheck. Basically we just disabling it for now, and we're going to select our about menu from that prefab folder that we duplicate, and we're gonna drag it top of this canvas game object in the hierarchy. And as soon as we drag it, we can see, so in this about menu, what we want, we just want to change the text of it. Instead of saying menu, we're gonna say something like about. So what we will do, we will select our PG, so let's click over here, and we don't want to have the play button and the about button inside this about menu. So we're gonna select both of those button, play button and the about button, and let's delete it. And let's call this exit button to something like back button. So if we just click on that, we just want to move over to main menu UI. So this will be about menu UI. So we're going to select our about menu. Let's call it something like about menu UI. So let's select that, go over to inspector, and we're gonna rename this to something like about menu UI. And now if we go over to overrides and then apply all, the changes we made inside this about menu UI, it's not gonna save into this main menu UI. So that is the reason. So if I just open up my main menu UI from that folder by double clicking on it, as you can notice, there is no changes at all inside our main menu UI. So basically that is the thing. So that's why we duplicate it from that folder instead of duplicating it hierarchy. And now we're gonna replace basically we're gonna call this exit button to something like back button. So let's go over to inspector, and let's call it something like back button, sorry, it should be back button. And also we need to change the text inside of it. Instead of saying exit, we're gonna say something like back. So let's select our text, let's go over to inspector and then text component, and we're gonna say something like, sorry, this is not, we're gonna select the text inside of this back button by clicking over here, then go over to inspector text component, and instead of saying exit, we're gonna say something like back. And now as you can see, it's pretty much cool. And if we select our back button, then go over to inspector, scroll down to the button component, and we need to basically what we have to do, we basically need to do something. But before I do, I want to change the sprite UI of this back button with something else to make it even cooler. To do so, I'm gonna head over to my project tab, assets, and then I will head over to my sprites folder, sorry, sprites folder, then UI2 folder, and I have those buttons. So I'm gonna select this one. Firstly, let's select the button, basically sorry, let's select the sprite, let's go over to inspector and let's click on this open sprite editor. So make sure you select pixel per unit to less number and point filter mode to point no filter in order to get rid of blurry. And once you done all of the things, then you can just do it. So I'm gonna select my game view and let's select the back button underneath our PG game object. Let's select the back button. Let's go over to inspector, then image component, and we can drag the sprite right over here. So I'm gonna select my this one and let's drag it over to that slot. Of course, I will have a link in the description of this UI sprites. You can go and check that out. And I just want to put the text a little bit up. So we can what we can simply do, we can select the button, let's choose the text and let's move it up a little bit. And also I want to put a header something over here, and inside that header basically a bar, I want this text to be there. And instead of saying menu, we're gonna say something like about menu. So let's select the text, let's go over to inspector, then text component, and let's say something like about, and we're just gonna put it in a header. So we're gonna create a header or a bar something top of this PG. So that's why we're gonna select our PG. Let's right click on it, let's go to UI and then we're gonna select this image in the top and select that image, then go over to inspector, rect transform, click over here, and we're gonna hold down and let's select this top right one, as you can notice. And as soon as we select it, we can see, and we can hold down alt on our keyboard to resize it from center. And also I want to change this image sprite with something else. So basically what we need to do, we need to drag this sprite right over here in this image component. So I'm gonna select this one, let's drag it over to that slot. As soon as we drag it, we see by now, and I want this about text inside of this header, or you can simply call it bar. So let's rename this to something like header instead of saying something like image. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select my text, basically this about text, and let's drag it top of this header game object. And we cannot do, because we basically need to select the parent, then go over to inspector, overrides, and then click on this apply all. And after doing that, click on this arrow icon in the right side, you can see in the hierarchy underneath our canvas game object. So we're gonna click on it, or we can simply select the about menu UI and then go over to inspector, and then we can just click on this open button in the right, we can see. And now we're gonna select our text, basically this text, let's select that text and let's drag it top of this header game object. Since we want this text inside of this header, or basically this bar, so that's why. And now we're gonna select our text, then go over to inspector, rect transform, click over here, and we're gonna hold down and let's select this one. As soon as we select it, we can see by now, but we barely able to notice our text. So we basically need to change the color of it. To do so, I'm gonna move over to my text component, then color, and I'm gonna make something like this. As you can notice, this seems pretty much cool, and we're gonna say about something like that. And I guess now this is pretty much good. And we also want a text right over here inside this PG, says something like about the game, who made the game, and the instruction how you can play the game. So we're gonna do that, and we want that text inside of this PG or this panel. So that's why we're gonna select our PG. Let's right click on it, let's go to UI and then legacy in the bottom, and we're gonna choose this text. And after doing that, let's go over to inspector, then rect transform, let's click over here and we're gonna stretch it. Select this bottom right one by holding down all, holding down all, and we're gonna resize this. So we're gonna hold down all to resize it from center, and let's move it up a little bit, and make sure it's don't overlap with the back button. And we barely able to notice our text, because we also need to change the color of it, as well as we need to increase the font size of it. So let's go over to inspector, text component, and let's make the font size something around 80, and I'm gonna change the color with something else. And also font style, I'm gonna choose bold, and font to this one. And now we can just put this alignment to both of this center, and we're gonna say something like I made this game, or let's say something like A and A and D key to move left and right, something like left and right, right. And what we can do now, we can put it as something like space key to jump. So let's put that instruction as well, space key to jump, something like that. It's basically up to you what you want to say. It's totally up to you. I hope you get the idea. And once we are fine, we can just move over to hierarchy tab and we can just click over here in order to go back. And now what we want, we don't want this about menu to be active. Basically we just want to select our about menu. Let's go over to inspector and we're gonna disable that, and we're gonna select our main menu underneath our canvas in the hierarchy, then go over to inspector. Let's enable that. So whenever we're gonna click on this about button, we just want to basically we want to activate this about menu UI as soon as we're gonna click on this about button. So what we need to do, we need to select our main menu UI, then go over to BG, and then we're gonna select our about button, then go over to inspector, scroll down to the button component, and then click on this plus icon, and you need to drag the game object, which game object you just want to active or enable. So in our case we're gonna enable this about menu, so we're gonna select about menu and let's drag it there, and it says no function, so just click there and then go over to game object. Basically you just going over to that about menu UI game object, and in the bottom you can see set active wall. So if we check this one, it's basically means we enabling that. So as soon as we click on this about button, then the about button, then this about menu just gonna be active or enable. And we also want to disable this menu UI as soon as we're gonna click on this about button. So we need to choose a second condition. To do that, we're gonna click on this plus icon one more time, and we need to drag the game object, which game object we want to disable. So in our case we're gonna disable this menu UI itself. So we're gonna select our main menu UI, drag it there, and let's go over to game object, basically main menu UI. Then we're gonna choose this set active wall in the bottom, and we're gonna uncheck. It's basically means we just disabling that. And now if we just go ahead and then click on this play button in the top, and then click on this about menu here, sorry, about button, as soon as we're gonna click on it, you will able to notice our about menu just gonna be active and this main menu just gonna be deactive. So let's take that out. So if I just click on this about button, as you can see, as soon as we clicked on it, we just move it over to about menu. But the problem is that if we click on this back button, we just not going over to our main menu UI. So we also need to move over to our main menu UI. To do that, let's get out of play mode. And now what we have to do, we need to select our about menu, and we're gonna select the back button of it. So we're gonna select our about menu. So we can just open that up in prefab mode, I guess, or we can simply do it over here as well. So let's go over to about menu UI underneath our canvas, then BG, and let's select the back button. Let's go over to inspector, scroll down to the button component, and let's click on this plus icon. So we need to drag the game object, which game object we want to enable. So in my case this main menu UI, so I'm gonna select that and drag it there, and it says no function. So let's click there. Let's go over to game object, basically main menu UI, and we're gonna set active, and we're gonna check this, basically which is we just enabling that. And as soon as we're gonna enable that means we need to disable our main menu UI itself. So we need to choose a second condition as well, or second thing. So let's click on this plus icon one more time, and now we're gonna select our about menu UI itself. Let's drag it there, and then let's go to a game object and set active, and we're gonna uncheck, basically means we just disabling that. And now it's fine. So if we just go ahead and then click on this play button in the top, you will able to notice as soon as we're gonna click on this about button, we're just gonna move over to our about menu, and as soon as we're gonna click on that back button, then we just gonna move back to our main menu UI. So now if we click on this about button, as you can see, we just loaded up our about menu. And if I just click on this back button, we can notice we just move it over to main menu UI, and that about menu just gets deactivated. And you can notice underneath your canvas game object in the hierarchy. So if we click on it, we can see this about menu UI just gets activated, and if we click on this back button, we can see this menu UI just gets activate or enable. So I hope you get the idea, and we're gonna get out of play mode, and make sure you just go over to main, basically the parent game object, then go over to inspector overrides and then apply all. And we're gonna do the same thing about this about menu UI. Let's go over to inspector overrides and then apply all. So I hope you get the idea that how you can make the about menu UI and how you can just do it, set up the logic. I hope you get the idea, and I will see you in the next tutorial. So goodbye for now.